Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new League of Legends video. So one of my favorite things to do in League of Legends, and especially in mid lane, is play unorthodox champions, and especially champions that scale off of AD. Not only do I find it extremely fun, but it's also usually a pretty good way to win solo queue games or just League of Legends games in general, because a lot of the people you'll be playing against will simply not expect you to play the champion you are playing in the specific role. But if on top of that, this champion also happens to be extremely strong if you play it correctly, then you have quite a winning combination. So this leads me into the topic of this video, talking about what I think is probably the ultimate cheese in League of Legends, Jarvan mid. The term cheese usually means to do something very annoying and somewhat easy while also being extremely effective. So throughout this video, I will talk to you guys about Jarvan mid, give you everything you need to know about him in order for you to go ahead and try it right away. This is something I've really been enjoying lately and also have had some good success with it, so I do recommend trying it out. But let's move into the positives of playing Jarvan mid lane, and the first thing to talk about is definitely his passive being extremely strong, helping you win trades with ease. This thing here really complements his overall burst and his kit, and you should always try to utilize his passive on cooldown. But then to complement that, you also have a ranged harass ability being his Q, not only dealing great damage, reducing armor, but also having much longer range than the indicator inside the game suggests. I think a very important concept for these type of champions to have in order to make them really successful, especially in the mid lane, is whether or not they have a gap closer, and Jarvan thankfully has a very good one. Now unfortunately it does require two abilities in order to actually get to your opponent and close the gap, but when you do, not only do you close the gap, but you also knock them up for a brief second, letting you have just enough time to put out your whole combo. And if you happen not to kill your opponent by then, you can always pop the W, slow them so you can continue to harass and chase them down a little bit, while also absorbing some free damage. But usually if you're not behind and you're somewhat ahead, you're gonna have enough damage in your full combo to burst down most squishies in the game by simply using your EQ combo, knock them in the air, use your auto attack, proc the passive, use your team out or hydro for the auto attack reset, and then follow up with your ultimate. And if you do this all correctly, they should be inside your ultimate just as they finish landing from the knockup on your EQ. One thing that caught me by surprise is that I do feel like Jarvan actually scales surprisingly well. Now this is a champion I feel like should not be scaling whatsoever into late game. Now that's not to say he scales as well as someone like a Jax or a Nasus, but it's still very respectable, and chances are you're still going to be able to kill their squishy backline with your full combo no matter how late you are into the game. And the main thing, again, this being a cheese strat, a lot of people will not be expecting just how insanely strong Jarvan mid is, the sheer amount of damage he can put out, and overall just really how easy it is to do. Now as great as this all sounds, there are some bad parts to playing Jarvan in the mid lane, and the first one being the most obvious, he is an AD mid laner. Now AD mid laners tend to always have somewhat of a difficult spot to fit in solo queue or just League of Legends in general, unless they're playing a pre-made 5. And the reason for that is because your jungler and your top laner almost always will not play an AP champion to fill that gap that you so desperately need if you play an AD mid laner, of course being magic damage. Let's be honest, his wave clear as well is not super good. I mean, yeah, you can use your Q and it'll deal a decent amount of damage, but it'll probably not kill any of the minions. So you'll have to get kind of right in front of the face in the enemy team in order to clear a wave, which is not what you usually want to do. And like most cheesy mid laners, you do require to snowball off of the lane at least a little bit. I mean, the great thing about Jarvan that I found is that even if you don't necessarily snowball from the laning phase, you can still be very effective in teamfights with your knockup and or your ultimate, and you're still going to be dealing a surprising amount of damage to the backline. But of course, it is much preferred if you snowball from the laning phase, because if you don't and you don't have a whole lot of AP in your team, well, someone is going to stack a lot of armor and you're never going to kill them. I honestly think his EQ combo to land it on a target can be a little bit awkward if you're not used to it, because I personally missed quite a bit of them in this video myself. And the final thing, the very infamous Jarvan I'm helping kind of ultimate, you trap your team and you leave them to die by accident. Could be a huge issue. Now probably the part everyone always waits for, what items do you exactly want to build on this cheesy Jarvan mid? Well, you want to start with a bottle and 3 potions for the most part, because you want the extra sustain and the extra mana to use your Q more often. But if you feel very confident that you can demolish your opponent, maybe level 2 or level 3, go for the longsword. But regardless, whenever I play Jarvan, I like to go just absolute ham mode and build as much damage as I can. So I almost always go for the brutalizer with the Tiamat, get the lucidity boots for the CDR, because you want to use your abilities quite often in my opinion. finish off the Youmuu's with the Hydra, and then I like the Last Whisper as well. Now those are the core items that I think you should always get, but the other items that I almost always get as well with the core items tends to be an Infinity Edge and a Triforce to finish everything up at the very end. But I do recommend playing around with the item builds just a little bit to see what maybe fits your playstyle better. The runes are quite simple for a champion that obviously scales off of AD and that I want CDR on, so I run flat AD Quints, Armor Pen Reds, HP per level Yellows, and CDR per level Blues. But if you're laning against an AD mid laner, then you might want to switch out the Yellows for Armor instead. And for the masteries, I run a 21-9-0 page, going ham into the offensive tree, getting as much damage as I can, while also getting a bit of defensive stats for help in the laning phase. But next, let's talk about just overall general tips that I want to tell you guys when playing Jarvan in the mid lane. So first things first, when you're playing Jarvan, you want to harass with your Q as often as possible until they're about half HP, while also, if you can, getting CS while hitting the opponent. And then you can do either an EQ knockup with an auto attack to proc the passive and then continue laning. If you have your Hydra or T-Mat, then of course use that right after you proc your passive from the auto attack. And if you have your ultimate, then use that ultimate right after everything else, and you're going to be doing tons of damage. One little mind trick is to use your E ability for harass and or CS and let it chill there for a few seconds. Your opponent will more or less forget about it, and if they ever walk too close to it, you use your Q then, knock them up, and then go on for your full combo. If you're being chased or your team is being chased and you want to try to stop the enemy team from continuing the pursuit, one thing you can do is use your ultimate on the enemy team, trap them within it, and then use your EQ combo to get out of your own ultimate and then leave them there. And always focus the backline with Jarvan because you have so much damage that you can annihilate the backline with ease, but you're not too bad when it comes to fighting tanks either, thanks to the shred on your Q. So to end off this video, the final rating I'm going to give to Jarvan is going to be a whopping 8 out of 10. Now the reason for this is because again, it's so cheesy and so many people have no idea what to do when they see the Jarvan mid that unless you mess up, it works a lot of the time. He also tends to scale surprisingly well when you build full AD, which I was personally surprised about. He can easily close gaps, he has insane amount of burst damage, he can get to the backline with ease as well, and overall just I think he's a solid pick in solo queue to hard carry, again because people will not be expecting nor respecting the damage that Jarvan can do. But that is it for this video guys. If you did enjoy it or learn something new, please do throw in a like for the video, share it with your friends, subscribe if you haven't, and check out my other videos as well. And make sure to try this out in your next game. I mean, if you have any questions or concerns or whatever the case may be, throw them in the comment section below. But as usual, I thank each and every one of you for watching, and I hope to see you for the next video. Peace.